Good afternoon, everybody. It is so exciting to be among all of you today to share my life experiences, to probably give you a few tidbits on the lessons that I've learned from my past, to share them with you. Now, when I was asked to talk to you all today, I was actually scratching my head at first. I just didn't know what to. But in hindsight, I'm very thankful to the organizers for having given me this opportunity, because what it helped me with is I actually rewound my life about 25 years ago, back to about 25 years ago, back to my middle school days, kind of relived some of those moments. That helped me sort of come up with a framework for, what have I learned in my 25 years since middle school that has got me to where I am. So I divided my talk into, say, two aspects. I just simply called it rewind because that's all it was for me. So I divided it into two. One, I wanted to give you guys a perspective of how technology has evolved the last 20 to 25 years, from my middle school years to your middle school years, okay? And two, I wanted to share a little bit about what I do for work, how I got there, and what I learned that has got me to where I am. So without much ado, let's start off with the first element, my middle school years. Do you guys even know what this is? This is a computer from back in 1990, 1991, say. I was introduced to computers in my 6th grade. We used to have a half an hour of computer classes every week where we'd huddle up in groups of 4 or 5, and we'd learn this language called BASIC. How many of you have heard of BASIC? Quite a few hands, that's good. And then we also learned this tool called Lotus 123. Okay, it was a precursor to Excel that you use for spreadsheets today. But today, you have much more smaller laptops, sleeker laptops, much more powerful. And I can't imagine life without laptops. I can't imagine life without tablets today. I can't imagine an hour of my life without these devices. Of course, I have to discount the times when I'm sleeping, but I use these every day in my life. Let's take phones. Another example. Again, have you guys seen this device? This used to be a landline. Okay, so this used to be phones that existed in homes back in 90s, at least in India it was so. We didn't have a phone at home, so I or my parents, we had absolutely no means of communicating with anyone real time from our homes. If I had to make a phone call, I'd have to go to these booths, phone booths, actually wait in line, wait in our queue, and then wait for our turns, make a phone call, pay a lot of money, and then come back. It used to be a big event for us when we went and did phone calls. Okay? Today, you have these super sleek phones from Apple, Samsung, and a host of other phone manufacturers. You not only talk on phones, you do your Facebook. There's WhatsApp today. There is, you browse the internet, you go Google, YouTube, whatnot. These phones are doing so many other things other than just talking, right? Which was the original purpose of phones. Technology has evolved over these last 20, 25 years. A third example, which is near and dear to my heart. As a kid, when I had questions, and when I needed to figure out answers for, say, science or math questions, or even general knowledge questions, I'd go back to these so-called encyclopedias, This is a set of books from this company called Britannica that used to publish a set of books that had details on several different topics. We'd go sit in our libraries, look through pages, understand these topics, and come back and do our homework. I used to have a set of books called Tell Me Why. Had a page-long description of these different things that I was curious about. Why is the Earth round? Why do we get days and nights? Things of that nature. Today, things are remarkably different. You have Google, you have Wikipedia, you have YouTube. You just have to go find your answers by typing simple statements in your phones or in your computers. It was interesting, just about a week ago, I have a 4-year-old. And I was exactly trying to explain why we have nights and days. Because she has her grandparents in India, and she'd be like, hey, Dad, why is it daytime here when it is night in India? And I was looking for an explanation of how to do it. I found a ball, I took a torchlight, tried to show her, hey, this ball is round, you kind of spin it around, it's bright on one side, dark on the other. And she got bored. She's like, Dad, why don't you go to YouTube and show me how this is done? I was completely flummoxed. It really hit me that information is available so much in very different forms, and you all have access to that information to be able to grasp things better, faster, and to grow your knowledge base so much more easily than we ever used to back in our middle school days. It's something for you guys to keep in mind. Lastly, my middle school years, no Wi-Fi. No Wi-Fi, right? So, this is kind of a joke these days, but this is how it used to be. We had to talk to people right next to each other. No Wi-Fi, okay? How many of you know Wi-Fi? Sure, there are quite a few hands, okay? At least for me, again, I cannot imagine a day in my life today without Wi-Fi, okay? There are a couple of jokes that I pulled from the internet here. On the left, there is this kindergarten kid that says his first day in school was miserable because he didn't have Wi-Fi. It's kind of an exaggeration, but quite true. Again, my daughter, as soon as she sees the spinning wheel on YouTube, she's like, Dad, slow Wi-Fi, go fix it. Right? So I figured this is not far from the truth. And the interesting aspect, I'm sure it's an accident, the spelling for kindergarten is wrong. However, the kid is so particular about Wi-Fi. So Wi-Fi is more important than anything else there. And on the right, there was this joke about families needing to turn off their Wi-Fi in order to get people in the dinner tables. Dads and moms here, is that really true? No? Yes? Okay, long story short, things are very, very different today, and Wi-Fi has become a very integral part of your life as well. Now, do you use Wi-Fi? I'm sure, I've heard answers already. Let's do a poll. Anybody, why do you use Wi-Fi? Yes? Sorry? Phones? It helps you connect to the internet via your phones, okay? Yes? It helps? Oh, so your mom texts you when she's in her business trips. Good, that's good. Yes? Yes?
To watch Netflix.
To watch Netflix, okay? That's a good example.
No, it's like
It helps me with my homework.
Okay, that's a great example.
Communication.
Communication, okay. What sort of communication? Okay. Okay, that's good. Yeah?
to pay that Wi-Fi bill?
To pay that Wi-Fi bill. But oftentimes, Wi-Fi, if you don't want to pay for it, you go to your parks and airports, and it's free. So you do get free Wi-Fi, too. But yeah.
To play loud, annoying music in the morning to wake up your parents.
OK, you do that. Okay, that's good.
To access the internet and like figure out information and everything.
Perfect. So that's absolutely, and that's one thing that is absolutely true. Cool. So there are quite a few hands, but I think you guys get the picture. There's a lot of utilities to Wi-Fi. There are a lot of uses to Wi-Fi. So, as part of giving you an interesting perspective of how technology has evolved over 20, 25 years, I wanted to give you a snapshot of what has happened to the Wi-Fi world. Back in '95, as I said, I had to talk to my friends. There's no Wi-Fi, okay? But the first generation of Wi-Fi was invented sometime in 1997. We were able to get a paltry 2 megabits per second, which is very, very slow, okay? Then, for the last 20 years, engineers and technologists and scientists have moved the needle so far ahead that they've invented 4 more generations of Wi-Fi to be able to get to so-called gigabit speeds. Now, gigabit speeds, approximately 1,000 megabits makes a gigabit, say. So we're really looking at 500 times increase in the speed of Wi-Fi over the last 20 years. Okay, that's just phenomenal. The reason I give you all of this is that all these technological innovations over the last 20, 25 years, friends, has happened at this very same place, at Silicon Valley. Okay? All of these changes, whether it's with the computer, whether it's with the phone, whether it's with Wi-Fi, they've all happened. They've all been pioneered in the Silicon Valley. I want you to take away 3 messages from this. One is you guys are absolutely lucky to be here in the Silicon Valley at the cusp of where everything technology is happening. What you see on the technology front, people in the outside world don't get to see for 5 to 10 years out. You are literally at the forefront of technology. 2, look beside you to your dads and moms. They have been a very proud part of the Silicon Valley tradition. It's because of your dads and moms that innovation has happened over the last 20 years at Silicon Valley. You've got to be absolutely proud of what your parents have contributed in the last 20, 25 years to make the Silicon Valley happen. Give them a big applause. Thank you. The third message, which I think is very important as well, is we, your parents as well, we're looking to you all to take the mantle from us and to move this innovation needle over the next 20 to 25 years. Okay? So I've given you a perspective of what things look like from my middle school now to now. I want each and every one of you to stand here 25 years from now and do the same thing. And tell students at that time that you were a proud part of the tradition that contributed to this innovation for the next 25 years. Okay? That's what Silicon Valley does to you. That's what all these events that are structured to help you understand, assimilate, and be excited about technology do to you. So keep all of these perspectives in mind. You are in a place where technology can happen, and you are the set of people who can make this technology happen on a go-forward basis. Okay? So why did I talk about Wi-Fi so much? I use Wi-Fi at work too, just like you use your Wi-Fi for your homeworks to get information, to do communication. But there's another difference too. I actually build Wi-Fi for work. That's what I do. So I am one of those culprits that bring Wi-Fi to you. So we at Broadcom build Wi-Fi chips that go into your phones and PCs that make you reach out wirelessly to your outside world, that make your mom send you texts that you can receive over Wi-Fi, or that enable information exchange over the internet. I am what we call a Wi-Fi product manager. It seems to be a complicated circle or set of circles, but let me explain. Who am I? I classify myself as a combination of 4 skills, if you may. One is I'm a wireless engineer. So I'm an engineer by training, and I have to understand the nitty-gritties of how wireless devices work. So I'm a wireless engineer. 2, I call myself a technologist. A technologist essentially assimilates the benefit of a particular, say, device, technology, and thinks about how to make it practically realizable, how to bring it to the external world, how to go take a technology concept and take it to production, put it in your PCs, put it in your phones, put it in your computers. So as a technologist, my job is to understand how Wi-Fi operates, how Wi-Fi can interact with your phones and other devices, how Wi-Fi helps you watch Netflix. And I have to go back to your dads and moms, who are the engineers at Broadcom. I have to go tell them, hey, this is what I need for the next generation of Wi-Fi. What can you do? Can you help build it? I can help define what I need. Can you guys actually architect it? Can you guys actually design it? Can you guys actually engineer it? The answer is a resounding yes. So the technologist in me works as a team with the engineers in my organization to go build these Wi-Fi chips. That's not all I do as a product manager. I also am the money man for my organization. What does that mean? All these companies, for better or for worse, they make products, but they have to sell it to make money. They have to make money to pay the engineers, to pay me, and to keep innovation going. So I also have the responsibility of taking that piece of technology that the engineers have built and trying to find a good way of making money out of it for my company. And last, I'm also the Wi-Fi sales guy. So now that I've figured out the technology, now that I've figured out how it could go integrate into a phone or a PC, now that I've figured out, okay, this is how I'm going to make money, I have to go find my customers. I have to go to the Samsungs of the world. I have to go to the Apples of the world and say, hey, this is my Wi-Fi product, and these are the benefits of the Wi-Fi product. Can you please put it into your device? What do you need to go take this Broadcom chip and incorporate it into your phones? So I'm the Wi-Fi sales guy as well. Others would call me the all-rounder there. So this is, although the face is not me, this is a good representation of what I do at work, including the cup of coffee that I have, that the guy has in one of his arms. So that's what a product manager does. And this Venn diagram explains it differently or more succinctly. So effectively, I, as a product manager, work at the intersection of technology, of business, which is the art of making money from technology, and customers who effectively take my take my product. So I work at the intersection of technology, business, and customers. So that's what a product manager does. Okay? But you know what? That was not my childhood dream. I did not start off thinking, I'm going to be a product manager. I am going to be a Wi-Fi product manager. No, that was not true at all. In fact, when I started off, I really wanted to be a mad scientist. I'm not kidding. So when I was in elementary school, I absolutely wanted to be a mad scientist. I was completely enamored by the photos of Albert Einstein that I'd seen as a kid. Something in it, really inspired me to be a mad scientist, not a bad scientist. Okay, so that's where I started. It was a very broad, I want to be a scientist. without knowing what it entailed, what it meant. Then subsequently I said, oh no, it's more exciting for me to be an astronaut, to go fly in space. I could be a scientist, but I could be a space scientist. So I could go into, rockets and be an astronaut. That was also, I guess, the time around which my country, where I come from, India, we were launching we had the first set of people, Indian people in space around that time. So there's a lot of excitement around it. So this definitely excited me as a field that I wanted to pursue, say, close to when I was hitting middle school. Then I said, being an astronaut really looks difficult. Maybe I don't need to be an astronaut. I just need to be an aeronautical engineer. Okay? I didn't know the term aeronautical. I said, okay, I want to be a rocket engineer, somebody who builds rockets. Okay? That will satisfy me. I can be an inventor, and I can also have something to do with space. Okay? Then, now, what do I want to do in these rockets? Okay, I want to build electronic chips that would go into these rockets. So around the time when I was in middle to high school, I had zeroed in on wanting to do electronics for my undergraduate education, if you may. It was all sort of sequential. One thing led to another, just based on clarity that I received by talking to people, getting data from Britannica, doing my own research, if you may. And then I said, okay, electronics is fine, but even beyond that, when all of these rockets launch these space stations, how do they communicate back to people on the Earth? They had to do it wirelessly. I said, okay, I'm going to build electronic chips for wireless communications. So by the time I got to high school, or let's say between high school and first, second year of undergraduation, I decided I wanted to be a wireless communications engineer. And finally, as I was going through my wireless communications classes, I did come across a couple of biographies, ostensibly one about Bill Gates, which, when I was 20, was super interesting for me, because he was a guy who not only had the technology, but he had the technology vision to go make that into a product and to go take on the likes of IBM and other companies that were really, really big at that time. So he was an epitome of being a product manager and a great business guy that knew to build technology and sell technology. So I slowly developed a liking for not just technology, but the concept of productizing technology. And then I really lucked out when I joined a startup after my graduate school. It was a 20-person startup. We were doing a lot of inventing, so it satisfied my childhood dream of being a scientist, because I invented, did a lot of patents, so I was pretty happy. But my CEO took me to customer meetings. Straight out of school, I would go to customer meetings, and I had to pitch my product. I had to go tell my CEO's customer what these products did. I didn't realize what I was doing then. It was only when I walked out of that company that I realized that I was actually being a product manager, where I was actually selling those products that I had built to my customer. And that became the final focus area that I decided to pursue and move to Broadcom, and subsequently, I would say rest is history for myself. So I am at a very happy place right now where I'm a product manager. Okay? It's absolutely something that I love. Because one, I strive to be happy, and I strive to learn. I think for you students, I think those are two very important metrics that you have to keep in mind for any decision that you make for your life and career. You take a math class, you have to make sure you're learning something out of it, and you have to be happy about it. There's no question. Those two things are absolutely vital. So when you are learning, when you're consistently learning, and when you are happy, success will automatically follow. The other lesson that I've learned through my childhood also is to be kind, is to stay kind. I call it compassion, but you have to stay kind. This I credit this quality for my dad. It's a good occasion to mention that. He was completely incapable of not being kind to others, even if they were vicious to them. And I've seen time and again that quality has helped him win back people. People that were bad to him turned around and came in and became good friends. And I've tested it out, and through my life, I've been very successful with that life lesson. Even if people are bad to you, understand why they are bad and try to help them out. Be compassionate. And that really helps you as a people's person. This quality has been very instrumental in me being successful, not just as an engineer, but as a product manager. Something that I'd want to drive in to you all. Burn the midnight oil. Now, hard work. This is an inspiring set of lines, poetic lines from Longfellow. The heights of great men reached and kept, were not attained by sudden flight, but they, while their companions slept, were toiling upwards in the night. This is something that really stuck in me right from my middle school. So any endeavor that I took over, I wanted to work hard. When I was in high school, I spent 18, 19 hours of work every day, studying every day. Not because I just wanted to study, but because I wanted to do this on top of all my other extracurricular activities. I was playing for my school cricket team. I was in the school debate team. I needed to do all of that and also satisfy my academic requirements. I worked really hard. There's no substitute for hard work. There are people that are exceptional that don't have to work at all to get things done. It's very natural. It's not true for, say, 90% of us. And we compensate that with hard work. No substitute for hard work, students. Observe and absorb. The reason I say this is you have to look up to others to, and gain from their own life experiences. You have to look up to your mentors and role models and trusted people that actually have your good in your mind. Your parents, you absolutely have to start off with your parents. They have your goodness in mind, and they will tell you the right things. You're, of course, allowed to make your own decisions. It's your own choice. But at the end of the day, if you trust people and those people are giving you inputs, it behooves you. It's absolutely mandatory for you to take your inputs. From my personal experience, I've had failures when I've not taken other people's perspectives, and I've had immense success when I have. As a kid, my parents taught me to be very, very independent. So I made my own decisions. But oftentimes it got into my head, right? As a kid, okay, I'm going to do this. No. Mom says, no, don't do this, Vijay. Or dad says, hey, here's why you should not do this. No, I'm going to try it out. I fail. So it happened a few times, and then I realized, the independence and decision-making is a choice, but then you also have the choice and an important duty to yourself to be able to take those inputs from people that care for you and to assimilate it, synthesize it, and bake it into your decisions. Observe and absorb. The people to start with are your parents, absolutely. And finally, and this would be my last lesson, if you may, you have to focus at every turn. There will be distractions, students. There will be 101 things that you would want to do. But pick on things that you like. Prioritize. Once you've prioritized your list, you can conquer the world very, very easily. Another set of lines that I very often tell to myself. Woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. You absolutely focus on your priorities and go at it, okay? Putting it all together, I try to make it poetic too. Strive to be happy, strive to learn, Stay kind and let the midnight oil burn. Observe and absorb. Focus on every turn. Success is a trophy you earn. Thank you.
All right, we have time for some questions. So if you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand and we'll bring a mic to you.
It's too boring, that's why.
Hi Vijay, thank you very much. Really, it is apt for the occasion. It's Father's Day and it's coming up, and really, thanks a lot. I think we gained some lessons out of what you said.
Thank you.
What do you do for kindness and compassion at work and outside?
Good question. It starts with understanding the motivations for other people, of other people, whether it is at home or with your peers and colleagues. So I start with having conversations with people, understand even if they are being very they're being very negative. There is always a motivation. There's no right or wrong. It's all relative. It's important to understand the other person's perspective. The moment you understand the other person's perspective, it becomes easier for you to step outside of the situation, take a very unemotional view of it, and approach it the right way. So at work, this happens oftentimes. You have peers that have opposing views, but they have an opposing view because they have their own agenda. Moving past the views, understanding the agenda, seeing how you can meet midway, as an example, shows sign of compassion because you understand the other person's perspective. Same thing, on a daily basis, even whether it's your son or daughter, whether it's your mom, it's the same thing. Just understanding so that's my primary principle, is to understand the motivation behind what other people do and to consistently do the right thing, be yourself and do the right thing. So none of the external factors affect me when I have to make such a decision. So when I have to make a decision, it's always compassion that comes first. And that automatically drives a certain set of actions in my mind. I don't know if that answers your question. Thanks. Yes. Yes, Annie.
So first of all, thanks for talking to us today. But what is like a typical day or week in your line of work? Like, what are some certain projects you would work on, or what would you in general do in a day or week in your line?
Sure. A day or week in my life. A lot of what I have to do is to understand the technology landscape, the market landscape. Right? As a product manager, it's important for me not just to understand what's happening within my company and within my product space, but also to understand some of the macro dynamics. As an example, I have to keep a very close tab on what you as a consumer want on your phone. Like, what are the applications you want? What drives your usage of Wi-Fi? So I spend a lot of time understanding that on my daily job. That involves talking to different people, looking through research reports, and formulating an opinion of what it is. Then I also spend a lot of time with my customers because ultimately, while I build my chip has to go into phones, and my chip has to go into computers. And those are the people that are making decisions on whether to use my product or not. So I spend a lot of time with them trying to understand what they want, again, and then building it back into my product. So there's an iterative process where I take market data, I take data from my customers, and build it into what I call a marketing requirements document. So it's called an MRD in a technology company. So we end up building an MRD that then I have to take into my engineering team and pitch it. So, hey, this is my MRD. Can you do this? Can you not do this? So there is a process of negotiation between me and the engineering team where we sit in a room and say, okay, this is a set of requirements I need. What can you do? What can you not do? When can you do it? Then we say, okay, if engineering can do it in 6 months, but I need that product in 3 months, then what is it that we can trade off to get the product out in 3 months? So there is that engineering and marketing discussions that often happen as well. And then in addition to all of this, I also have to, again, remember the money aspect of it. I also have to tell my company, hey, if I do all of this, this is how much money I'm going to make. So I have to plan ahead, not just for this year, but I have to plan ahead for 1, 2, 3 years as to how much money I'd be making off this product. And that has to be a very carefully thought through process. It's not just the money that I make, but it's also the cost it takes to build that product. So I have to focus on the top line, or the revenue as we call it. I also have to focus on the margins, which is, hey, all the money that I make minus all the cost that I incur. That is what drives me at the end of the day as a product manager. So these are the set of activities that literally consume a week or more, and then on top of it, there are other activities, including, hey, I need to negotiate this agreement with some other person, some other company, and so there's all these things that factor in, which is very exciting because I not only understand technology, but also the business aspect of it. That really, really drives me. Okay.
All right, well, the great news is he is staying here for lunch. So any additional questions, please feel free to ask him at that time. To wrap that up, I do want to ask you one more question. So you shared lots of great words of advice and encouragement for the students. What final advice would you want to give to them as they start thinking about the things that they want to do in the future, especially being surrounded by all this technology here in Silicon Valley?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the core slides that I had in this deck effectively was to keep the options open. So don't make up your mind now that this is what you want to do or you don't want to do. So you may like math today, you may not like math today, but it can change. Keep your mind open to those options, because once you do that, your life experiences that you would accumulate from this point on would help you drive to a more optimal solution. So stay open and keep your options open. Look around, talk to elders, talk to your mentors, look for role models. I'm sure your future will fall in place. And I really look forward to being in the audience 25 years from now to be able to hear one or all of you come and speak here about technology innovations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.